Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Rinkside here with myself, Ryan Steeves, and Emma Miskew. Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, welcome back. It's been a little bit of a break. We've
Yeah,
been asked where we've been. We were just
no,
recapping our first season of Rinkside, and now we're ready to get going on our second season.
yeah, it went by fast. That is the first season, if we're calling it that. And then, yeah, I did. I got a lot of feedback. I've been in rinks quite a bit lately. People wondering where we've been. Probably more interested in where you've been. Less me, and keeping up with you. You're in the news. I'm not in the news, which is a good thing. So I think we've spent the last little while just sort of reflecting on what our listeners loved hearing about and charting a course forward for the foreseeable future here with Rinkside. And I think there's some exciting stuff coming.
Yeah, most definitely. We did a little bit of a recap on what we talked about and what everyone wanted to be listening to and like what conversations
Mhm.
hit. And so we're really happy to be back. And
Mhm.
Um, to start, like Ryan, what have you been up to this summer? How was your summer? I know it's not summer anymore. We're now to November, but like that was our
Yeah,
break. So what have you been up to?
I know. Summer for me, like many hockey families, is a time to unwind and make sure we flip the switch and get away from the rink. And so, yeah, it was a lot of baseball. I know I talked about that last year a little bit. Uh, Baseball, tennis, just spending some good family time together. In winter seasons, we tend to divide and conquer, with both of our boys being pretty active. So yeah, just it was just a productive, fun summer at the Ball Diamonds instead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that
What about
is
you?
that sounds great. Well, we are heading into an Olympic qualifier
Yeah.
soon for our curling team, and so it was a busy summer. Chatted and Rachel and I got on the ice a little earlier than normal in July this year, just because we found in previous years the long break over the summer where there was no ice. And that's
Hmm.
part of the problem is we don't always have the access to practice ice. It was hard to get back into it when we did.
Mm.
Just the feel of it, how our bodies felt getting back in with like a 4-month break of not being on the ice at all. It just took a little bit longer. So this year we said we don't want to have that time period at the beginning of the
Right.
season where we're fighting like maybe a bit of knee pain or just not being super comfortable back on the ice for the first couple weeks. And we got
Yeah.
on in July in Kelowna.
Okay.
So we went to Kelowna,
Beautiful.
and then our team started training early August. So
Wow.
we've been on the ice for a little longer than normal. We had a shorter break, and
Okay.
then hopped into the start of our season early September, and have basically been going nonstop since.
Jeez.
It's a busy. I don't know why, or I do know why, but
Hmm.
this season became
Yeah.
so busy with events, with the trials being in there, and the
Totally.
Grand Slam of curling added or moved the last event closer to the fall. So everything got condensed a little bit. So I've basically been on the road straight since end of September with
Jeez.
minimal days at home.
Yeah.
But it's
Now we're
been,
getting the real reason why
yeah.
Rinkside's been on a pause. Yeah.
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 And that's why we're back now.
As I look at your schedule, though, like I mean, let's unpack that a bit. So yeah, when were the Worlds? Were they in March, or I feel like they were
Yeah.
springish, right? So
Yeah.
March till July. So your recovery a little bit, but then you're getting on a little earlier than usual. And for those listening who aren't following this closely, the Olympic trials are coming up at the end of this month, right, in Halifax?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I leave a week, or they are starting, I think, on like the 20th, maybe, or around that. So coming up soon.
Yeah. Cool. And then, but mixed into that was all these, a couple grand slam events. The Pan Continentals were recent, right? Those went
Yeah.
recently. So yeah, give us a quick recap on Team Home and state of mind these days.
Yeah, so we've been playing in a lot. There have been 3 Grand Slam of curling events since we started our season in mid-September. We played one other event to start in Cornwall, and
Hmm.
then we played another event called the Pan Continental, which is competing against kind of all of the countries in the world except for Europe towards a spot at the Worlds. This year in particular, the world spot was already ours because the worlds are in Canada. So Canada has a spot, not like Team Homan. Team Canada has a spot at the worlds because we're the host country. But we thought it was a good opportunity to go and play 10 end curling because the Olympic trials will be 10 ends. For those of you who are new to curling, some curling events are 8 ends and some curling events are 10 ends. And it does change the strategy a little bit because the game is just longer. You have a little bit more time, either more time to defend a lead or more time to catch up. So you're in one of those two positions.
The negativity in me was like, more time to blow it. But so who curls that extra end, or those extra 8?
Well,
there's 4 of you, right? So who?
yeah, so we just play the full 10 ends in the longer games, and then but it is longer. So we have to be prepared for those longer games, and
Yeah.
no events until the Olympic trials would be the regular curling for us this year. So we just decided that we were going to go, and even though it added to our schedule and made it a little bit longer, we just wanted that experience, and we got to put the maple leaf on our back, which we never take for granted, and go and get some good quality games. So we ended up going there, and then we won 3 Grand Slams, and next event's the Olympic qualifier, and we're hoping that we can keep it rolling for that.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you guys, I'm not a curling insider, but I call your continued success just historic. You're rolling. So I know all the Rinkside listeners, we're pulling for your team, and I'm sure it'll be pretty competitive in Halifax. Who are the teams to watch other than Team Homan?
Well, I mean, there's only 8 teams that qualify.
Yeah.
So all the teams that are there have
All
earned
pretty
their
good.
spot.
Yeah.
Anyone can win. That's the thing about curling too,
Yeah.
is anyone can win on any given day. You can, like, your average play could be like, you could be a team that normally plays 70%, but for that game you could play 95. That's entirely possible with curling. So we're gonna have to be sharp. We know that everyone is going to be going into that event prepared and ready to go, and we're just gonna have to play the best that we can, and that's all we can do.
Exciting stuff. Well, we'll be following along, Emma. It's always easier to follow you in the media as you push ahead. So good luck at the end of the month, and we'll be following along here. Get your insider updates here on Rinkside.
Yeah. So you were in the baseball diamonds all summer, but obviously we're into November, so hockey has started. How has the start of the hockey season been going?
Yeah, big question. So I'm back coaching the U13 AAA hockey team. My oldest son's on that team. So the same group I was coaching last year, as I talked about. And the season's off to a fast and furious start. We've already been to 3 out-of-town tournaments, 10, 11 league games. It's been a very busy start to the season. I think every year I coach, I get a little more insight into, how to approach youth within the youth sports world. I know that's such a big theme of our show and why a lot of people listen. Now, and we'll continue to bring you sort of these fun guests that give insights for all of you listening, which all seem to be in the same demographic. Yeah, the tryout season is always a perplexing one. It's just so full of emotion, and I think it's only increasing as the age creeps up, which sort of makes sense.
So if you understand it more, you understand like on the line more as you get older.
Yeah. I mean, well, you're also getting closer and closer to this mythical, mischaracterized goal line, finish line.
Yeah.
But as the kids get older, the pressure increases. And but you see a lot of the same issues that pop up in house league tryouts, which I helped with this year. And you see a lot of those same issues pop up at the higher, AAA hockey levels. But there's always lessons to be learned from that. And my big advice and my big takeaway this year was at the younger ages, and I'm sure this is the same, and we could draw parallels to other sports, baseball, for instance, big hitters, fast pitchers. There's a real advantage to just physicality and body maturity at the younger ages. And then as they start to grow and that starts to level off a little bit, the IQ of the sport starts to take over and become a little more important. And we're seeing that now at the U13 level as they approach physical contact starts next season. And so, we're starting to see a bit of a redistribution and other characteristics taking over and giving kids a little more success. that's been a really fascinating start to this hockey season that I'm witnessing. But as always, it's a happy place for me being at the rink with these young kids and being a part of their adventure. So yeah,
That's that's nice. And all the
yeah,
other well, we can't go without talking about the sport that just ended and the run that the Jays had.
yeah,
The whole country kind of seemed to band together for whatever that those
yeah,
weeks where they achieved way more than I think
yeah.
anyone thought, even they thought they would. They just it was honestly it just seemed like they had such great team chemistry and they
Hmm.
battled and they won games that they were behind in or
Hmm.
didn't look like they had anything going and then came out with wins. Like as like a coach of a baseball team and having
Hmm.
like I've never played baseball. So
Yeah.
I can watch it. I don't watch a ton during the summers. There's so many games, but I definitely hopped on the playoff bandwagon. Can you talk just
How
a
could
little
you
bit about
not?
how that team chemistry on such a big team can be so impactful?
Yeah, wasn't it amazing? That's really the word to describe it. We have the advantage, I think, as a country that it's our only team, and so it's easy to get on board. But I think the most compelling thing for this team's run and who they were was just how they played. It didn't take long for fans or for people who weren't, hardcore fans to see what was different about this team. You had this powerhouse. I mean, you had a powerhouse Yankee team, a powerhouse Seattle team, powerhouse Dodgers team, but then you just had this not in a disparaging way, this like island of misfit toy team that just figured out how to play with each other and love each other and play for each other. And that was really their strength. And that resonated with Canadians, I think, who weren't as familiar with the sport. Every time someone was interviewed, it was incredible. All they did was talk about how much they loved playing together. And, watching Ernie Clement in his post-game interview after Game 7, just crying and saying he just wants to go have a beer in the clubhouse to be around his teammates for another 2 more hours. And that there's just something so Canadian and so something that can actually be extrapolated across any other sport. That's really what coaches and teams are striving for in any sport, is to have that moment and that feeling of togetherness and pulling a rope in the same direction and not relying on one player, but needing literally every player on that lineup.
Yeah, it's so interesting because there's so much emphasis a lot of the time put on just talent
Hmm.
versus who you are as a teammate and how do you help your teammates? How do you bring them up? And even coaching styles, like how do you get your players being confident. And I think that it's so interesting because I think team dynamics and making a team that
Hmm.
want to fight for each other and want to get that extra inch for each other as
Hmm.
opposed to for themselves in a team sport, those are the teams that succeed. The teams that you make a mistake, that's okay. You didn't like that wasn't, and we know you weren't trying to make a mistake. Don't worry, you got the next one. Like that
Hmm.
sort of helpful energy creates
Hmm.
champions.
Hmm.
The most talented players, and we've talked about this a few times, so you could have the most talented player out
Yeah.
there who just isn't a good teammate, is a little maybe mean or critical of their teammates because they know they have the talent
Hmm.
and they're frustrated when their teammates aren't putting in the same numbers that they are. But
Hmm.
their actions actually can negatively impact their teammates. And I've seen it on teams where you get a player who's very talented. And in curling, it's so there's such a small team, so it really comes out. But a really talented player who joins a team and they look like they forgot how to play. Like they
Yeah.
and you could see it on their face. Like they have no confidence. They're scared to throw. They're missing shots that they normally wouldn't. And then that they stop playing with that team and join a different team. And all of a sudden they're back and they're performing. And I think that is where that being a good teammate side of things and bringing the best out of your teammates is so important
Mm-hmm.
and so like under discussed. And I don't think
Yeah.
that's
Underappreciated.
that
Yep. Hmm.
but
Very rare.
I think that, um, like a player who maybe slightly less talented, but brings out the best in all their teammates is a far more valuable person to have on a team than someone who's super, super talented, but brings the worst out of their teammates.
Yeah.
And that's how I think in my career, the reason that Rachel and I have been successful is because we battle through a lot of those moments
Yeah.
together as opposed to pointing fingers.
Hmm.
But that's not always the case.
Yeah. And that's great, Emma. And I think One of the things that I really witnessed, being sort of more of a casual baseball fan and then being dialed in to their run, was, decisions around who would start, right? I joked every night because, the game would come on and it's the Yankee series or the Seattle series, and my wife has said, like, why isn't Lucas starting? I'm just like, you didn't even know who Lucas was 2 weeks ago. But but then you look in the dugout and you don't see dejection or me first that I'm not playing and he's playing instead. And I know that that's more baseball, allowing guys to come off the bench, and that's a part of that game more so than maybe others. But just the togetherness in that, not just I want to succeed at all costs because I have, I'm a free agent and I just want another big contract, the Bo Bichette situation. There was an unselfishness about this team that was so apparent and front and center for this run that, sometimes these deep runs like the Raptors a few years ago will result in more signups, at the youth level, right? It'll just get kids more engaged. But I actually think that this World Series run will go down in history for hopefully impacting how teams are structured and how coaches coach and how players view the importance of team first mentality, and as not just like a tagline, but witnessing it day in and day out.
I think that's like a great, if you were to put a compilation of videos together on how the Jays looked, like all the players looked among each other,
Mm-hmm.
that is what you would strive for on a team. And I think like anyone who doesn't fit within that mold of someone who's going to go out there and try to bring the best out of everybody
Mm-hmm.
else, try to do their job, but like really someone is struggling, how can I help? Like, you know what? You're so close. You're getting the next one, not a frustrated. And I think that body language has so much to do. It's less about the words. You could just put a compilation of videos together showing how they all their body language was. And not one person there is mad at anyone else on their team for not doing their job. They are all
Yeah,
fully confident that everyone is doing their absolute best out there just by looking
I
at their
know.
body language. And
Well,
something like,
counting how many hugs they would just like hug each other for no
yeah,
reason. It's
and
like,
like
no,
the little
yeah, it was great.
celebration with the jacket, sure, like hitting a run. And I think just like that just created this really safe space for everyone to be able to perform. And I know, like for me, from a performance standpoint, and if I'm really affected by body language. Like I'm a visual person. You
Mm-hmm.
can share honest feedback with me, but if your body language looks upset or frustrated after something I've done wrong, I that hits me. So that's something that I have tried to manage too. Is it might not be about me, but also I've made you make your teammates aware. Like your body language affects me. I mean, you can see it on teams that do well. You don't see frustrated body language about
No,
teammates' mistakes.
no, no, no,
Oh,
I
should I
know.
make an appearance?
Yeah, I know. Well, you've been gone a long time. I think the dogs miss you.
Yeah, they've been like, "Where's mom?"
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, they wanted to join in on Rinkside this week.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, I mean, well, one thing with the Jays was fatigue. I was exhausted every morning, staying up as late as it was. But
Did you
you
stay
know,
up for the,
I
was it
did
17 innings?
18,
18
18
innings.
innings. I did. It's like a badge of honor. I know. Ruined my next day.
Yeah. I stayed, I think, up till 11. And then I was like, I
Uh,
can't. I was just home from an event and it's like, I need to sleep. Like, I'm not going to go into the next event recharged if I stay up and watch. And had I stayed up and then they lost at the 18th, I would
yeah.
have been like, oh,
I know. I know. So let's pivot. I wanted to ask you, and this show is not scripted, just so you guys know, all listening. We sometimes talk about general topics, and we don't have a guest today, but we've got some amazing guests coming. And so, just as maybe as an aside, we have a presence on social media for this podcast. I would encourage anybody who has ideas, or maybe even a guest to suggest, flip us a note through our social media channels, because we do our best to tap into our resources and networks to find people to talk about topics that we think are interesting. But please share if you have ideas.
hmm
So one of the things I want to ask you, Emma, you're now, I guess it's maybe 6 major events into your season. Hockey seasons are another comparable. Basketball is sort of hit full swing a little bit for kids and youth. Other sports, of course, but I think it's an interesting time to reflect on fitness. Right, you put in all this work in the off season
hmm
to get ready for your season. But I think, a lot of athletes think about, well, once my season starts, I'm in season mode. I don't train anymore, and the muscle degradation begins. And stamina starts to decline as you put in all your work and now you're just in the flow of it. What do you do to maintain that physical presence and health as the season wears on?
Great question. And that's something that was a little bit learned
Hmm.
with help from personal trainers as well.
Hmm.
But for myself, I don't find that working out, lifting heavy during a competition is helpful for my performance because curling is such a feel sport. It is your leg drive and everything for draw weight could be impacted so easily by a heavy lift during an event. So I put all of my energy during events into the sport, into sweeping, which takes a lot of energy. And I save my workouts for outside of game days. And I am in a maintenance phase. So what I've learned is that you will deplete a little bit throughout your season. It is inevitable. It's just part of being an athlete. Unfortunately, we can't just keep building. You have to build as much as you can in an off season so that you're ready to perform. Like performance is number one, practice is number one, and then your workouts, everything that is number two. It's still very important, but you have for like if I could be as strong as I can be, but I have no feel, I'm not going to perform. So that is the biggest thing. And my trainer, I have a personal trainer who knows that.
Yeah.
And so my workouts during the season just look a little bit different. The weight is a little bit lighter, a little bit higher rep, nothing that's going to kill me, where you can't walk
Hmm.
when you wake up the next day,
Yeah.
but you still get a good lift in. And then nutrition, like you mentioned, you have to
Mm-hmm.
fuel like so much more than you think. I, there's something about the amount of food that we need in and around like the entire season. I am constantly hungry. And I think that's just a sign of like how much energy we're putting out into both training, practicing, lifting, travel, and competing.
Hmm.
So it's making sure that you're well nourished. And a lot of that has to do with planning and making sure that you have
Yeah.
food ready to go because often with how busy our lives are, I think that we sometimes don't plan for a meal. You're like, I'm starving. And then you end up having to stop somewhere and get something that's probably not
Yeah.
really what be your first choice.
Yeah.
So I would just make sure I plan and always have food available. What did you do when you competed?
Yeah, I mean, the science has changed so much and the approach for physical fitness has changed. And you can tell me, right, mobility and flexibility and maintaining, you called it a maintenance phase. I mean, there's a lot that goes into what a maintenance phase is, but yeah, and especially for a team like yours and who you are at your level, travel is so much a part of that. And so maintaining your body during that travel, staying healthy, fluids, all these things go into it. One thing that I came up recently with the kids at my level, in particular my son, he had mentioned at one point, and we're sort of in that maintenance phase too, right? We're a few months into this hockey season. It's a very physical sport, and so the kids are actually starting to feel it with how much they are on the ice and whatnot. And so he had said to me, "I feel a lot faster, Dad." And I said, "Oh, okay." Truth be told, I don't think he's any faster than he was maybe a couple months ago. But it got me thinking that, the connection between self-belief and how that can progress, right? So if I just truly believe, and I'm focused now on maybe on more the mental side of this maintenance phase you're in,
Hmm.
truly, putting in that work, but feeling the confidence and drawing a connection from just how you feel to actually seeing those results. Could you get better at something just by truly believing you are? And I think that's key to a long season, and you're sort of right in the middle of it as you head into the biggest moment of your career at the end of the month. No pressure, but there is that mental side of it, right? All this work I put in, I am in the position now to succeed.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I think the more that you know that you have a full plan in place, like, okay, I've got my meals in the fridge. This is what I'm eating. My workouts are at this time. My practices are at this time. Like I put everything into my calendar so that I'm like, that part is a non-stressor because it's all pre-planned, pre-set. I
Yeah,
know, like, well, when I'm competing and I come home, I have a
yeah,
meal delivery service so that I don't have to think about going and picking up ingredients. And what
hmm,
if one of the ingredients is missing? Like I have meals that are sitting in my fridge. So the first few days I can actually recover and
hmm,
put my time into recovery and know that when I go to leave again, I wasn't
hmm,
just depleted that entire time with all the things that
Yeah.
you have to do.
Yeah.
So I find that's been really helpful. And then I came home and it's like, yeah, I could have a couple days off, or I went and did a light workout today. And it felt
Yeah.
really nice just to get
Yeah.
like just home, light workout, have some meals ready for me,
Yeah.
like do a bit of
Yeah.
laundry, get back at it. And that's just like part of just having, I find everything just organized makes me feel confident that I can take all the rest time that I need and get everything done that needs to be done. But I'm not, my head's in the right space, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So forgive me, Emma. Your coach is Heather right now. Is that this season?
Yeah.
Heather's with you guys. So what's the next week? We're going to hear a little bit from a hot off the press, Ryan Fry, player turned coach, legendary. He had a great curling career in his own right, and then is now having some success as a coach at the higher levels. And so, what's the mindset? Walk us through that relationship with Heather as you guys approach. Um, it's a bit odd in your season, right, to have such an important event happening right in the middle of your season, an Olympic year, of course. So
Hmm.
what's the mindset and the emotional roller coaster of amping up for an event like this, like many other athletes who are ramping up for the Olympics, but then sort of right in the middle of your season?
Well, I mean, Heather's been great. She has helped you to just checking in with everyone and making reiterating, and this is something we already know, but it's helpful to hear, is feel like you can be selfish right now. Like you
Mm,
need to make sure you are taking the time you need to recover. You don't
right.
need to take on things you don't want to do or don't have to do. Maximize your rest, and you can be selfish right now. So, and I mean, we all know this, but when you have someone tell you, it hits a little bit different. And then for her, she's just trying to be helpful in any way she can,
Yeah.
take anything off of our plates, like organizing places to eat, making sure that our rock info is sorted. And that's that same kind of organizational piece where someone else is just taking it on. You don't have to worry about it and you can maximize your rest. So it's been really nice having someone around who can help with that sort of stuff, because a lot of the time it's
Yeah.
just the four of us and we do it all ourselves. So
Yeah.
having her on board, and then Rochelle is our alternate and she helps take on anything else, has been really great for just us knowing everything is taken care of
Mm.
heading into the trials, and we can all just make sure that we're maximizing our rest, recovery, training, gym, nutrition, sleep.
Yeah.
All the big things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to be dialed in. Margins are small, so I like that. Be selfish. Of course, your coach Heather doesn't mean be selfish amongst your team. It's be selfish to the external world. All those obstacles that may pop up in your way. I like that. I like that mentality, actually.
Yeah, and I think it's
Yeah,
something that is the opposite of what we normally like we're all people who we're on a team sport, so our mentality is I do things for other people. But then
hmm
when it's certain times, you just have to do things for yourself. And this is one of
yeah,
those times. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's going to be an exciting it's called season for Rinkside here. We certainly have a lot to follow along with your career, Emma, and what Team Holman has in store this year. We're gonna dive a little deeper into some of the topics that I think our listeners are most interested in. We've been hearing a lot of feedback about some of those topics, and that generally fueled a lot of the episodes that we got into. Almost 20 of them, I think, in season one. So we hope you'll follow along and make this interactive. People do pop up to me in rinks and ball diamonds, wherever, suggesting topics or just giving good feedback. So we love the growth that the show has seen, and I think it's going to be a great year. So
Yeah.
looking forward
Super
to it.
excited. And we're pumped to get back at it and hopefully have some cool topics coming your way. So keep tuning in and yeah, like
Hmm
Ryan said, any ideas, send them over to us.
Yeah, yeah. So here we are. We're back, episode one of season two, effectively, and look forward to sharing Ryan Fry with you next week as we get into the transition of an elite athlete to the coaching ranks. So it's a fun discussion. You'll enjoy it.
Well, thanks for tuning back in with us. We're so happy to be back. And tune in again next week for our next episode.
See you, everybody.